If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we're back, and I'm joined tonight by our in-house subject matter expert on all things Intel, S2. How you doing, S2?
Hey, Chris. Good to be here.
What's going on in North Carolina? How cold is it?
Believe it or not, it was 62 freaking degrees here today.
No shit.
Yeah. I was like, well, there's so much for that cold Arctic blast coming across the country.
Yeah, you'd think the way that the weather station's carrying on is that the end of the world's imminent. So much for global warming, right?
Yeah, well, it always is for them.
Yeah, it is not the truth. All right,
we did actually have a shutdown here today of one of our major shopping centers here today.
Because
well, it was in North Hills of Raleigh, North Carolina. It was shut down because 3 people got shot there today.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Did they perish or did anybody survive?
I haven't seen any reports on the disposition of that.
Okay, don't mind me here. My main camera was shutting itself off, and it looks like after an update it set itself to terminate after 5 minutes. I got it working, but it's a little bit crooked now. All right, let's jump right in here to the topic at hand, which is Trump's inauguration on Monday. We've been saying since the election that the 20th was a big concern, especially being outdoors, big target, lots of chatter amongst terrorist groups. It's a very symbolic day that they would love to hit us. So today, this is one of many people who mentioned this. Laura Loomer is one of the first ones I saw, though. President Trump just posted on Truth Social that the inauguration will now happen inside the U.S. Capitol, where he will be sworn in as the 47th president. He said it will be too cold to have the ceremony outside, and he doesn't want anyone to get injured. So before I read his truth post, S2, does it strike you as odd that he doesn't want anybody to get injured? But it's
I find this post his decision where to do it a little ironic, because where the coup began is where the coup is going to end.
Right.
And words mean things. The whole doesn't want anybody to get injured. That's an indicator.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that, because the first time I read it, I was like, wait a minute, how's the cold weather going to cause injuries? But then I thought to myself that maybe his words were being couched for a specific reason. So January 20th cannot come fast enough. Everybody, even those that initially opposed a victory by President Donald J. Trump and the Trump administration, just want it to happen. It is my obligation to protect the people of our country. But before we even begin, we have to think of the inauguration itself. The weather forecast for Washington, D.C. with the wind chill factor could take temperatures into severe record lows. There's an Arctic blast sweeping the country. I don't want to see people hurt or injured in any way. It is dangerous conditions for the tens of thousands of law enforcement, first responders, police canines, and even horses. And then the second part of it is, therefore, I have ordered the inauguration address, in addition to prayers and other speeches, to be delivered in the United States Capitol Rotunda, as was used by Ronald Reagan in 1985, also because of very cold weather. The various dignitaries and guests will be brought into the Capitol. This will be a beautiful experience for all, and especially for the large TV audience. We will open Capital One Arena on Monday for live viewing of this historic event and to host the presidential parade. I will join the crowd at Capital One after my swearing in. All other events will remain the same, including the victory rally at Capital One Arena on Sunday at 3 p.m. Doors open at 1 p.m. Please arrive early. So moving on from that, here's another post. President Trump isn't taking any chances. He has hired Arcus Group LLC and a British SAS hero as his personal bodyguard. The president must be safe and secure. I don't trust any Khazarian satanic, cultist, DESC Kabbalists at all. This won't go down easy. 1 minute, 18 seconds. I'm going to play the whole thing and then we'll have a discussion on this.
Did you notice the bodyguards at Trump's inauguration? They have to follow 3 strict rules, the last of which is surprising. The inauguration is approaching. Trump has hired a company named Arcus Group LLC. He has even promoted a British SAS hero who rescued 22 hostages to be his personal bodyguard, who will accompany him throughout the process. While they receive an $8.1 million contract, they also have to abide by 3 strict rules. Number 1, the security company has to provide top-notch products, such as anti-scaling fences, roadblocks, golf carts, and all types of obstacles, including alligators. This is to ensure safety and at the same time facilitate politicians attending the ceremony. Number 2, more than 300 security guards will jointly supervise the people attending the inauguration during security checks to prevent anyone from carrying any sharp utensils. A full coverage search has also been carried out within a 48-kilometer radius around the area to ensure that there are no suspicious persons. In addition, the bodyguards need to expand the scope of drone surveillance to fill the blind spots of traditional ground patrol. This is because the elected president has been attacked before. Number 3, in addition to safeguarding the president's safety, the bodyguards must also protect First Lady Melania and the 5 children from being harmed in crowded environments, especially Barron, who is regarded as a heartthrob.
All right. So before I add anything to the conversation on this S2, I'm curious what your impression of that video is and the SAS guy who's supposedly guarding Trump.
Well, if he's got that SAS guy and it's who I think it is, he's got a real badass there. And you don't want to fuck around with the SAS guys.
Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, you know what the protocol is when you bring in private security and mix them with Secret Service? Because I've heard some stuff in the past, and I don't know if it was hyperbole or what, where directors inside the Secret Service have said that if somebody brings in private security, screw them, they're on their own. We're not going to share the liability. Sounds like hyperbole to me, like I said, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're right. I think you're right about that. I think it's just hyperbole.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I mean, it seems to me that any extra help would be a good thing, not a bad thing. But here's another angle to this whole thing as far as the inauguration on Monday is concerned. So the Clintons, Obamas, they're skipping the inauguration. The Bushes as well. AOC is not going. Nancy Pelosi's not going. And I kind of share Chad's analogy here. Good. The country's tired of them. But in the back of my mind, it just makes me wonder, you know, is there something planned for the inauguration on Monday? I don't trust any of the people that are on screen right now or the other names that I mentioned. They would be perfectly happy to assassinate Donald Trump and take him out. What are your thoughts on all of these people? Is it just sour grapes, or is it sour grapes and something more?
I don't want to speculate on it. I think they're just disrespectful. I mean, it was very evident that Bush was very disrespectful of Trump when they went to Jimmy Carter's funeral, just completely snubbed Trump altogether. And frankly, they're all irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. They can go jump off a short bridge as far as I'm concerned.
Right. So for the most part, I would agree, but I don't feel that Obama's irrelevant. I think he's going to continue to work behind the scenes against Donald Trump in any way that he possibly can. I mean, this is essentially the end of his 3rd term, his shadow term. And I think him and Brennan are going to do everything they can to thwart Donald Trump. And more so than anything, I'm hoping that this is what, you know, you feel, and I feel as well, that there's sour grapes here. But let's hope that it's not more than that. It wouldn't take a lot to surprise me for it to go the other way.
I'm thinking they probably don't want to show up because they don't want to get a white envelope.
Right. So even Matt Gaetz, Trump's inauguration is being moved indoors due to dangerously cold weather at this point. Let's just move it to Mar-a-Lago. And AKA agrees as well. Moving it to Mar-a-Lago would be awesome. It would not be a bad thing. So this guy here, this pastor, he predicted the July 13th shooting supposedly 3 months in advance. And I went back and I looked at his stuff. and he did predict something like that happening. And he said that it came to him in a vision from God. So now he's come out again, and you'll see this is today. This is January 17th right here. So Pastor Brandon Biggs, who gained nationwide attention after accurately predicting the assassination attempt on Donald Trump months before it occurred, has sounded the alarm once again. So he's saying that between now and Monday, the only thing that can save President Trump is for all of us to pray and for God to intervene again, most likely like he did on July 13th. That's my belief, at least. I believe it's Donald Trump's belief as well. So I don't know about people having visions and stuff. I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm not saying that he's right. But sometimes you look at this confluence of events, right? So we've got all the supposed dignitaries refusing to come and making it look like sour grapes, but they're not putting themselves in harm's way. We've got a massive number of National Guard there. I think we had a video coming up, about 5,000 of them deployed already. Our good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Doc Pete Chambers, is in DC running security details. And now we've got this guy who did predict July 13th coming out with another prediction. Thoughts on that, S2?
Well, the only thing I can say is everybody needs to use their own discernment here and not get spun up. But the Bible does say, beware of false prophets.
Yes, it does. It does. So anyway, next tab that I'll bring up, I'm not going to play this video. It's 55 minutes long. If you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, you can download the brief for tonight if you're a paying member. If you're a free member, tonight's is just for paying members, although you can buy it for $3.99. It's the minimum price that Patreon wants to charge. I would be perfectly happy to do it for 99 cents when we restrict it just to paying members, but they set the price. We can't go below that. I watched part of this, and he did not strike me as being insincere, and he struck me as truly believing his premonition. And let's hope that the second part of his premonition, which stated that if we all pray to God that we do not lose Donald Trump in an assassination attempt on Monday, that's the only thing that can save him. Let's hope that that's the way things go. This is just another post. Actually, this is more than a post. So this is when you go to the Explore section of X and you select any of the top stories, it'll aggregate everything below. So everything that's related to that particular topic. So there was something else at the top earlier when I looked at this. Now it's kind of bubbled down, I guess, and this is bubbled up. Either way, suffice it to say that there's a lot of people not going to the inauguration. But here's the video that I referred to. 5,000 troops deployed for the inauguration. 1 minute, 7 seconds. So I'll just pause it.
They have no weapons.
Right. I noticed that as well. And I wanted to ask you a question as to, so 2021 aside, because of course we had January 6th, 2021, and then we had, major lockdown in DC for the inauguration of Joe Biden. What would the normal head count be for deploying National Guard and federal law enforcement for an inauguration? I meant to go look it up earlier and I got sidetracked with a sick dog.
I don't know that we've ever had to do that before, honestly.
Very interesting. So yeah, I noticed the same thing as you. No guns, but maybe.
Well, in all honesty, that just could have been a simple deploy drill, and they didn't need their firearms at that point in time. But I would expect them to be at least equipped with riot gear, hopefully on the day of.
Yeah, fair enough. So let's move on to the next one here. Nothing along this line or topic would be complete without including some conspiracy theory. So, from our good friend AJ, helicopters scan for nuclear irregularities over DC as Secret Service prepares for worst case scenario at inauguration. Pardon me. So, Department of Energy helicopters are reportedly flying grid patterns above Washington DC. Pardon me, I'm getting indigestion here. DC to scan for nuclear irregularities while the Secret Service is reportedly preparing for a worst case scenario during Monday's presidential swearing in ceremony. In a CBS Mornings clip posted by talk show host Benny Johnson on Thursday evening, it was revealed that helicopter pilots are flying just 150 feet above the ground, dodging buildings as they maneuver in grid patterns above the capital city. The craft are scanning for radiological or nuclear irregularities such as dirty bombs, which is conventional explosives jacketed in radioactive material, as well as nuclear weapons themselves. 50-second video.
An exclusive look at how security officials are prepared after months of planning.
So, crane to your left. Got it.
From only 150 feet in the air, pilots dodge buildings.
And tower to your left side. Got it.
Flying in a grid over the National Mall to scan for radiological or nuclear irregularities, threats like dirty bombs.
So you're trying to create a blueprint of what the radiation in Washington, D.C. looks like ahead of the inauguration. Correct.
Department of Energy scientist Jacqueline Brandon calls this low-flying helicopter one of just 2 of its kind in her office.
If we find a radiological irregularity, we'll investigate it even further.
Highly sensitive technology sets off alarms in the air.
That's an alarm. That is an alarm. It's a slight variation in our spectra is what it's saying.
An exclusive.
So, as to what do you make of that? Speaking of whether or not something is par for the course or part of the regular SOP, I don't recall hearing anything like this at any previous inauguration. Do you?
No, and honestly, I don't think that's actually happening.
Okay.
I have a number of resources out there that track aircraft, and they were saying that they thought it was odd they weren't seeing anything over DC.
Really?
Yeah. And that looked to be, if I wanted to look at the quality of that video, that looks to be an old video. And that's number 2. And number 3, since when do we take reporters up in official aircraft when we're performing official duties? That's a level of liability that the government does not want to take on. It's just completely ludicrous.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. It kind of reminds me of letting the press into what was the terrorist name in New Orleans?
I just call him Ding Dong.
Yeah, but the guy who was praising
Yeah.
Al Qaeda essentially. So they let the press walk through his trailer, and that struck me as really, really odd at the time.
Yeah.
More so like it was they were trying to get a message out than anything else, a narrative, I should say. So, all right, well, we'll pivot off of that, and here's the same question that I asked. Troops file into DC for the inauguration. This is very different from 2017 or 2021, right? Pray that Trump's team and all their families are kept safe. Again, I don't have any recollection of anything this extensive being rolled out before, but 37-second video. It looks like a commercial to me, S2. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. It looks like a recruiting commercial.
It absolutely looked like a commercial. That one didn't strike me as genuine at all, but what do I know? Either way, we can wrap up by saying that Trump's inauguration on Monday is moving inside the Capitol, which would negate the primary threat of drones. Of course, it doesn't negate the threat of drones flying into the Capitol building, which is not unusual for kamikaze drones to do, especially if you had them in large numbers. But hopefully everything goes smoothly on Monday and that there's no further attempts against Donald Trump's life and that there are no terrorist attacks, because a bunch of us will be flying on Monday as well to get to SHOT Show. So that would be like worst possible thing that could happen during our travel day. I do want to mention something briefly while we're discussing the military here. So somebody that we recently had on Survival Dispatch News, who will remain unnamed at least for the next 10 days, was spotted on Survival Dispatch News by somebody at Fox News. Fox News reached out to this person and asked them to speak on Fox News. They went ahead and did that. Then Newsmax saw this person and asked them to come on Newsmax. And before this person had a chance to go on Newsmax, that this person's immediate superior, who's a hardcore anti-Trumper, anti-Pete Hegseth, pardon me, threatened the person who was on Survival Dispatch News and said that she would essentially ruin her career. So we'll have more on that once we get to a safer point in time. What I will say is that Todd Callender has taken it up, so he's going to protect this person. And there's a chance that Sonia Labasco, who's the person who broke the Tulsi Gabbard stuff, pardon me, may protect this person as well. Stay tuned for more details on that. We probably won't be able to say anything until after we get back from SHOT Show. So
I just found something interesting out here.
Okay.
So it looks like the Secret Service has released information about all of the areas and the roads that will be closed and the times that they will be closed and the days that they will be closed. They just basically, pardon my French, they fucking handed out a roadmap to the bad guys to say, hey, I can't get through here. Where else can I go?
Yeah, that seems a little irresponsible, doesn't it?
A little bit.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of security through obscurity, but in this type of case, when you're talking very specific tactical level information, I don't agree with that either. I think that's crap. Let's do a quick audience poll. Put a number 1 in the live chat, regardless what platform you're on. If you think that it was irresponsible to release all of the information of what streets are going to be closed and when they're going to be closed, or if you agree with it, put a number 2. I'd love to see what shows up as I'm monitoring this on all the different platforms. And the very first one is a number 1, but we'll circle back in about 5 minutes. Wow, the ones are piling up like crazy.
I just sent it to you.
Right on. Yeah, I'll grab it right now while we're. Are you watching the votes coming in here?
Oh yeah.
That's that's really interesting.
We don't have any trolls in the audience tonight.
Yeah. That may be subject to change. So here's the article that S2 just sent in. So downtown DC access limited National Guard presence bolstered. And wow.
Scroll down. It gives the exact locations.
I'm looking at this. They gave him a map, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, vehicle road closures. Just like that. Wow. That is a tremendous amount of intelligence. If you think this is irresponsible to release this information before the inauguration, put a 1 in the live chat. If you think it's not irresponsible, put a number 2 in the chat. And I saw somebody, DSim3 and Dean P, put a 3. I have no idea what you mean by 3. By all means, explain it in the chat if you don't mind. But everybody is 1s except for those 2 gentlemen. don't see any number 2s at all. So I'd say the consensus is pretty good amongst our audience across 6 different platforms that we're broadcasting to right now, that this was not a good release of information. Yeah, crazy. Thanks for sending that along, S2. Appreciate that. All right, so we're going to pivot and move into chapter 2 next. Purple-haired board member of Jeffco Schools County says they will put plans in place to protect illegals in their schools and neighborhood after Trump's inauguration. 37 seconds.
And lately, we're also starting.
There's no sound. There's no sound, Chris.
Oh. Sorry, say that again, S2?
There's no sound.
Oh, wow. I've got perfect sound here on my end. Let me reshare it again. Crazy. All right. Yeah, sound was playing fine here, but we'll try it again. Let me know if you got sound right away. I'll back this up. You got sound?
Negative.
Well, I don't know what the heck is wrong with that video. Let's move to the next video and see if you have sound over here. Let me know if you got sound on this.
I might have been the first
Yep.
to call on.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure why there's no sound here. So on this particular video, but this lady, as you can see up here with the purple hair, is saying that this Board of Education are going to do everything they can essentially to thwart Donald Trump's mass deportation. They're essentially going to shield illegals, which is a federal felony. And I can't wait to see some of these people arrested for this shit. What do you think?
That should be Tom Homan's single task for this whole thing, is to run around and him walk in and personally arrest and cuff every single one of these people that impede this.
Would we make for a glorious highlight reel, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
All right. So speaking of Judas Pence, Mike Pence is calling on Republicans in the Senate to reject RFK Jr. for the head of Health and Human Services. 1 minute, 53 seconds. I won't play the whole thing.
Go away.
To call on Republicans in the Senate to reject the nomination of RFK Jr.
I'm going to stop it right there just for a second, S2. Who do you think is paying Mike Pence to say this? Because somebody's behind. Somebody's paying him to say this.
Pharmaceutical companies, big food, big ag, all of them.
Yeah, agreed. All right. A little bit more of Judas.
The Secretary of Health and Human Services. You know, there are many aspects of the government that bear upon the issue of life, none more important than health and human services. It was one of the reasons why during our transition in 2016 and 2017, all of our candidates, first and foremost, were supporters of the right to life. Ultimately, our nominee, Secretary Tom Price, would move forward and advance the cause of life. And we made great progress. As you know, you were directly involved in a number of those issues through administrative action. But I understand people's desire to defer.
So I'm going to stop it there. I can't believe that we're still having to listen to this guy. I mean, he's as traitorous as the rest of them are. I remember when Trump first announced him as his running mate. I can't remember the exact number, but at ballpark, his net worth was something like $500,000. And it put him basically at the bottom of vice presidential candidates for many, many years, adjusted for inflation time, etc. I'm curious what his net worth is today. We should probably look that up at some point and see just how much he's been paid to be bought off, essentially. All right, moving on from there. A Nazi-obsessed terrorist, the second jailed in 2 days, although they don't exist, we are told. 32-year-old tried to publish a terrorist manifesto on his X account, which he claimed he did as his duty to England by exterminating the asylum seeker. Did you catch this by any chance, S2?
No, I did not.
Here's my thoughts on this, to be honest with you, and I'm not defending this guy. However, this push by Western governments to demonize white men, I've been saying this for a while, is going to end up activating some radicals. And we're not in support of that. We're not promoting that. But it's human nature that if you push people, eventually they will push back. And I think that's what we're starting to see with this sort of stuff. What's your take on it, S2? I mean, how do you? We're middle-aged white guys, and it's nonstop that we're bad guys, you know, and everything's given away to everybody but us because we're bad guys.
Well,
Neither one of us
in-
are engaging in this type of behavior. But does this surprise you?
Everyone and everybody is racist. That's all there is to it. But I will say this: he has good taste in knives.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, moving on to the next one. Footage has been obtained of an election worker in Orange County, California, counting the same large stack of ballots 3 times on the evening of November 8th. Republicans lost a House seat in Orange County a month after the election, by the way. We don't know if there's a legitimate reason for the worker's actions, but the worker pushed the same batch through the machine 3 times. The real shocker of this entire episode caught on video is that this all occurred after Orange County received a bomb threat and before workers were removed from the ballot counting facility. Election fraud expert and investigator, Real Joe Hoft. So, minute and 40 seconds. I won't play the whole video, but I'll play enough for everybody to get the gist of it. So,
wow.
Election cheating has never happened, right? That's just a right-wing conspiracy, is it not?
All day long.
So how do we square that video then? How do you think the people who claim there's never been any election interference or cheating would square that video?
They can't. I mean, honestly, they can't.
Okay. Good answer. Yeah, pretty crazy. All right, next one up. If red dye caused cancer and they lied about it and covered up for 30 years, just imagine what they lied about. I mean, great question by concerned citizen here. I mean, we've known that all kinds of additives like this are carcinogenic and not good for you for years, but a major portion of our population has not been aware of that, and people don't know what they don't know. So I'm not taking a shot at anybody, but it's amazing that all of a sudden now that Trump's coming back in and RFK is going to be running HHS, that this stuff is finally starting to happen. I don't know if you have any comments on it or not, other than these people are, they're in cahoots to keep people sick. There's no money in healthy people. There's no money in dead people, but let's just keep people sick to fuel the big pharma medical industrial complex.
Well, there's also another thing too. You know, everybody, all of the liberal progressive wingnuts out there were praising when the United Healthcare CEO got murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that a lot of people don't know, probably because not many people took the time to look at this, is that he was actually very outspoken on changing United Healthcare's policy, which didn't sit well with some people. He was looking to change their policy from rewarding doctors and hospitals for treating people, and changing that policy to rewarding them for making people healthy and not sick, which the AMA and the American Hospital Association, and then there was another of the largest healthcare lobbying companies in DC, came out and spoke out against this very largely. And like I said, a lot of people don't know that, but all of this big lobbying company up there, it was all comprised of former politicians, staffers, and aides, and they would bounce back and forth between these organizations into different executive positions. So when we look at the grander picture of things, we look at how the money was being threatened, and basically killing the United Healthcare CEO was a message sent that said, "Don't mess with our money."
Yeah, that sounds perfectly reasonable, legitimate for sure. Stella's got a great question here. They only banned one dye so far, red 3. What about aspartame, tartrazine, yellow 5, and everything else? Well, hopefully, when Trump resumes being the president and JFK, or RFK, I should say, Jr., ends up taking control of Health and Human Services, that those items will also be nuked. And then I saw there was a comment here from our good buddy Velcro. Red number 2 was banned way back in the mid 70s. We've known this for 50 years. And I am familiar with that, but I wanted to share that with our audience. So moving on to the next one. A massive fire has now started at a power plant, Moss Landing, in California. What is going on in California? So this is actually a battery plant for rechargeable batteries. 29-second video. So as of yet, I have not seen the cause of this fire. I don't know if you've heard anything about it, S2.
Well, what I do know about this is this was originally a coal burning plant, and they turned this into actually it is the largest battery bank in the world that would generate 700 gigawatts of power. And they say that the cause of the fire happened around the lithium batteries. So it's not hard to set those things off if you do it the right way.
For sure. That's why one of the tests for batteries is the nail test for lithium batteries. If you want to see some crazy stuff, check out somebody taking a nail and pounding it into a lithium rechargeable battery and how quickly they explode and burn up. There's some people.
That's a fun time. I've seen it personally.
It's bad. Did you see the one of the guy who had an e-bike and he took it into an elevator, S2, and it caught on fire, and by the time the elevator stopped, he was charred. He was toast. I don't know if you saw that, but it was pretty crazy.
I've seen it happen with people with airsoft guns.
Wow. The whole thing in the elevator, was shocking because the guy had nowhere to go. Like he was trapped, and it literally cooked him alive. But moving on to the next one, Huntington Beach, California, said they will declare themselves a non-sanctuary city. They are directly defying Gavin Newsom to work with Donald Trump to deport illegals. California is waking up. 25 seconds.
Huntington Beach is poised to declare itself a non-sanctuary city. At the next council meeting on Tuesday, there's going to be an initiative presented to City Council for adoption, declaring the city non-sanctuary status, meaning that it will coordinate and cooperate with federal agencies and fully effectuate all the tools available, both at the local, state, and federal level, for best practices to combat crime.
So there's a piece of good news. And I've been saying for quite some time that the vast majority of Californians are good people. It's funny. I see people in other states say, California voted for this, that, or the other thing. I don't believe the elections have been legit. I do not believe that Californians elected Dianne Feinstein for over 50 years, and she held precisely 0 campaign events during that 50-year career. I think the elections have been fixed, and I think there's plenty of conservatives in California that get screwed over by that. I don't know if you want to.
Unless these people get really, really, really loud at that city council meeting, that's not going to go anywhere. because you have the people that are in power there that make the decisions, and they're going to make the decisions regardless of what the citizens want, unless you get up in their face and get loud.
100%. So simply because we got on the topic of batteries, man dies in elevator after e-bike battery explosions. Crazy. So this was July 26th of last year. 34-second video. So that's an e-bike battery in his hand.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Absolutely horrific, man. How horrible is that? I'll let just the first little bit play again to see just blink of an eye. Unbelievable. There's an extended video that shows the firefighters removing the body, and it's just a black charred body. Go ahead, Esty.
Must have been a jihadist.
He was an Asian guy from what I could see, but either way, what a horrible way to die. All right, next one up. Representatives from both California and North Carolina are now calling for FEMA to be completely overhauled, as LA fire victims are also getting rejected aid by FEMA. This comes just 48 hours after FEMA accidentally kicked dozens of West North Carolina families from hotels. 3 minutes, 50 seconds. I will not play the whole video, but enough to get the gist of it.
Here in Washington, FEMA is coming under scrutiny. The congresswoman who represents Altadena, where Brian was just reporting from, telling me earlier this week that many of her constituents' claims aren't being processed. And on the other side of the country, the congressman who represents battered Asheville, North Carolina, going much further than that.
There's nothing worse after your life has been devastated. You're not at your home. You're trying to recover. And then you get a non-approval message in error. That's not right.
That is an organization that clearly needs to be overhauled, and I'm anxious to be a part of that after January 20th. We need a new director, a new administrator, and we've got to change the culture of FEMA.
Thoughts on FEMA, S2? I mean, they've been raking the people over the coals in North Carolina, your state.
So there's a lot of talk about moving FEMA out of DHS. I mean, basically they did this whole reorg after 2011, or pardon me, 9/11, where they brought all of these federal agencies up under DHS, and they need to do they have a couple of different options here. They can take FEMA out from underneath DHS and a bunch of these other agencies out from under DHS and let them report directly to the executive branch, i.e. the White House.
Mm-hmm.
That's one option. The other option is to get rid of them because they haven't proved their value at any freaking thing that they've been involved in since their inception. Nothing. They provided no value whatsoever. If DOJ wants to come in there and do something, that's one thing you do. You go in there and say, we don't need TPS reports anymore. You guys need to go and let the states form their own emergency management, which they already have. We don't need the federal government to do this.
Yeah, the chain of command, and the only reason I know this is, one, because I live in Florida and we've been through a gazillion hurricanes, and two, because I took a city leadership course years ago. So cities report into counties, report into the state when there's a state of emergency. And then technically the state is supposed to take its marching orders from FEMA. But you're right. I mean, the absolute worst place you could find yourself in after some sort of catastrophe would be a FEMA refugee camp. God save your soul if that ever happens to you. All right, moving on to the next one. The FBI shuts down its diversity office just 4 days before President Trump's inauguration. Trump isn't even in office yet, and the world is healing. I personally believe DEI will be a distant memory in the past before too long. You can't be a successful business or organization if you're not hiring people based on merit. That's all there is to it. I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not, S2, but we've beat that topic to death.
Well, I like what Alex Lace says down below. He's absolutely right. They're scrambling to hide diversity department employees from cash. That's one thing. The second thing that they're doing is what they always do, which is destroy evidence.
Right. And Trump very publicly has told the FBI to preserve evidence, especially as it relates to DEI crap. But you're right. They won't listen to that at all. Next one, Supreme Court upholds TikTok ban or sale. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld a federal law that mandates TikTok to either be sold by its Chinese parent company ByteDance or be banned in the U.S. starting Sunday. This decision has sparked a debate on digital freedom versus national security, with arguments centered around potential First Amendment violations versus concerns over data privacy and Chinese government influence. Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there, S2. I think that this is absolutely an information gathering and theft of information from American people by the Chinese. But in the grand scheme of things, this is now a tempest in a teapot. They've got so many ways of taking information, compiling information, meaning the CCP, on each of us, that I don't know that TikTok, being in America, swings things one way or the other, because let's call it the intrusion and the data gathering has been way over the top. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, this was more gathering biometric information about people that use it. You know, everybody knows your phone takes a picture of you every 5 seconds, I think it is, and they're looking for your reactions to things, because there's this thing they called NCI I can't remember what it's called, neuro something or other, but based on that, they can create content that will make you behave in a certain way. They're basically using that content to manipulate you. I really want to know what that term is, but yeah, they're without saying it, I'm going to say it. There's something that went on here recently when Dell sold VMware to a company called Broadcom.
Yep.
And so I believe that Broadcom is tied to China as well. Well, what Broadcom's been doing over the last 2 decades has actually been very slowly buying up all of our IT company assets in the United States. And now that they've gotten a hold of VMware, well, gee, guess what 80% of government infrastructure runs on? It runs on VMware. So now that they have that, they will, if they have not already, build a back door into VMware where they can just come right in the back door into our government computers anytime they want to, especially if it's up in Dell's cloud or even up in Google's cloud for that matter. They can come right in through that back door because the VMware is designed to run on any public cloud platform now.
Yeah, so not to take us down the technical rabbit hole too deep, but VM stands for virtual machine. And years ago, they were the pioneers in providing virtual machine capabilities. So what that means is you had a server. You could do it with a laptop and desktop as well, but you had a server and you installed VMware, and then inside of VMware, you would install an operating system, Linux, Windows Server, whatever. And from a backup disaster recovery perspective, and if that server went down, instead of having to do a bare metal restore, so bare metal, you've got to literally put every piece of Lego back together again. Very time intense and lots of opportunity to miss bits and pieces. All you had to do is just back up the disk file for the virtual machine. To this day, we use virtual machines all over the place. You'll see VPS as an acronym, virtual private server. And what that is just, it's a snapshot of an operating system with your applications in it. GoDaddy, these other guys sell that to you, but it makes DRP, disaster recovery protocol, really, really easy. So VMware, like you just stated, S2, is pretty ubiquitous these days. It's everywhere.
Well, there's a lot of companies now that are actually looking to exit from VMware because what they've done now, Since Broadcom bought them, they have basically been extorting companies, literally holding a gun to their head, saying that if you don't re-sign your contract with us, we're going to charge you 4 times the amount for your licensing.
Yeah, dirty, really dirty for sure. All right, moving on to the next one. Slander is a bad idea, Senator. This is from Senator Tim Kaine. There's a long documented history of Pete Hegseth's on-the-job intoxication. Total bullshit. And completely inappropriate behavior. Total bullshit. Under no circumstances can our national security be threatened by intoxicated leadership. This guy is such a loser. 1 minute, 30 seconds. We'll see if I can get through 30 seconds of it.
Many of your work colleagues have said that you show up for work under the influence.
That is the face of a pedophile in my book. I'm alleging it. I have no proof.
Of alcohol or drunk. I know you've denied that, but you would agree with me, right, that if that was the case, that would be disqualifying for somebody to be Secretary of Defense.
Senator, those are all anonymous false claims, and the totality.
They're not anonymous.
The letters on the record here.
They're not anonymous.
On the record,
we've seen records with names
Vets
attached
for Freedom, Concerned Vets for America, and Fox News. One of your colleagues working hard every day on behalf.
One of your colleagues said that you got drunk at an event.
That's enough of that shit. Thoughts on Tim?
I remember the term that I was looking for now. It's called neurocognitive intelligence. Sorry.
No problem at all. Do you got any comments on this dickwad?
All I can say is that every single one of the ones that followed him after this, they must have taken their talking points from him or their coaching.
Yeah, good point. Good point. The mockingbird syndrome again, right? So,
yeah.
All right. So this one came from our good friend Nestor. You'll see him very active in the chat and the comments. He's been hanging with us at SDN almost since the beginning. And of course, I don't speak Spanish, so I can't understand any of that. But watch what happens. This guy runs on stage. This is a good example of how easy it is to take somebody out, literally take them out with very little sophistication and very little money. Did you see that?
Yeah, they're not that hard.
Yeah.
The DJI drones are nothing
Check
like
it out. Go ahead.
The DJI drones are nothing like the hobby grade drones. The DJI drones don't go that fast.
Right.
We have drones and they're in hobby grade. I think the fastest one has been 600 mile an hour.
That's still pretty dang fast, but the point I'm trying to make here is we had a video quite a while ago, S2, I'm sure you remember it, where Angela Merkel was speaking and somebody flew a drone on stage and sat it down right in front of her. And I think it was kind of like a shot across the bow, basically saying we can eliminate you at any point in time. I mean, it could have easily had explosives in it, just like this one could have had explosives in it. I think people are starting to wake up to the gravity of the threat from drones, but many people still haven't come to grips with that. And again, we started on this stuff 2.5 years ago, almost warning people.
It's like Doc Pete said, anybody that's involved with Trump's security right now, we have the 360 head on a swivel thing. Now we got a 360 head on a swivel +1, which means you got to be looking up too.
Z-axis. Yeah. Mike Sterling preaches that all the time as well for urban survival. You can't just be watching XY. You've got to be watching the Z-axis up and down as well. All right, next one up. Just days after shuttering their DEI department, the FBI has announced that the agent who initially reported on the New Orleans attacks has been reassigned. She is the one who claimed that the attack wasn't terror-related. She should be fired. 37 seconds.
Good morning. My name is Alethea Duncan. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge for FBI New Orleans. As Chief Kirkpatrick said, we'll be taking over the investigative lead for this event. This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found. And we are working on confirming if this is a viable device or not. As Chief Kirkpatrick said, we're asking everyone to stay away from Bourbon Street, specifically from Canal Street to St.
So we will have Keith Graves with us next week for some live episodes from SHOT Show. And Keith has been saying for years that the problem with the FBI is that they have virtually zero people who have hands-on law enforcement experience. Everybody that they hire is young, just out of college with a degree in something or other. And they've been incredibly focused on DEI. And who knows, this lady might be a really nice lady. I don't know, but you probably remember S2 when she came out and said this was not a terrorist attack. It was like literally 60 seconds later, the next person who got up the podium said, this was a terrorist attack, and I don't think that the FBI could be more incompetent. And personally, I think we need an agency along the lines of what the FBI is supposed to be, but the current FBI is so messed up. I think you got to burn it to the ground and start a new department, new culture, new people.
You know what I think her degree is? I think her degree is, I think it's in crisis acting, because every single special agent in charge that gets up in front of a camera now, that seems to be the only thing that they can do is convey crisis. They're not really talking facts because they don't know.
Yeah, 100%. So by the way, so Keith has done some training for the FBI, and last time that he trained FBI, it was on drug and gang interdiction. I can't remember what the word was, but Keith used a word, something that we would throw around regular conversation. And people who attended that workshop seminar complained. They went to their management and said, you can't have this guy back ever again because, he's racist, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And Keith's not racist at all, but, it hurt their feelings.
Did you call him a fag?
Maybe. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. Next one up, success is uncertain, but entertainment is guaranteed. So we're now into chapter 3. We're moving right along tonight. So chapter 3 is interesting headlines, zany headlines, sometimes some memes. I don't have any memes queued up for tonight, but I don't know if you caught this or not. As to 51 seconds, no need to play the whole thing, but one of SpaceX's rockets blew up.
Good, it's about to fall on top of us.
Oh my gosh! What is this? Are we gonna fucking die? Look up right there.
It's a UFO.
Isn't that crazy though? The way it almost looks like it's in slow motion. Kind of interesting. All right, moving on to the next one. Ukraine produced over 30,000 large bomber drones in 2024, with production expected to ramp up over 2025 with the addition to drones received from the UK initiative, the Drone Coalition, which now includes 17 countries. I know you're not surprised by this at all. What I would like to hear, S2, is what is your thought? Is your perception of these drones that Ukraine is making from a technology perspective? Is this really advanced stuff? Are we helping them with the technology? Is it not so advanced? How does it compare to DJI, for example? I'm just curious overall where Ukrainian drones fits into the formula.
So I could go into the technical weeds on this all day long, but this is an octocopter, okay? And one of the major problems that you have with copters of this size is frame vibration. So I mentioned this the other night. Every single one of these copters has an onboard gyroscope. It's basically what compensates each motor in the split millisecond. If the copter starts to go off course, one motor might speed up, two motors might speed up. It's what basically keeps the copter flying the way it's supposed to. This is very advanced to be able to tune an octocopter like this, and there's no telling what else they have on this thing. You can put LiDAR sensors on this thing so they're anti-collision. You can put LiDAR on them to do ground penetrating radar. There's all kinds of stuff. They've even got thermal vision for these things now.
Explain LiDAR for the people in our audience who are not familiar with that term.
LiDAR is basically, in this term, it's collision avoidance. So you could it's one of the things that you can use to do geofencing with drones. That if you're flying this drone and you've got a geo fence set up for it, or you've got a route for it to fly, if it senses an object is coming its way, it will avoid that object and then continue on its path.
Yeah, I think the first time I heard LiDAR mentioned was in reference to the cartels bringing cocaine across the border back in the 80s and 90s. And they had no LiDAR equipped planes on purpose because that gives away your position as well. And they were flying so low that there were some close calls. I'm sure Velcro probably has got something to weigh in on that from, but LiDAR, very, very common for crash avoidance, in-air collision avoidance. All right, moving on to the next one. I'm the king of the world. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Check this out. 6-second video.
Dumbass.
Gotta play this one twice. Okay, I had to play it 3 times. That's some funny shit right there. You know, usually I'm the one who's crashing like that, not somebody else. You want to talk wise words? Check this out. If we can put serial numbers on every bill, we can put one on every ballot.
Amen.
Golly, 100%. And I'm not sure if you caught this or not, but Obama to divorce Michelle after discovering she's actually a woman. Oh my God. Funny stuff. All right, next one up. Honestly, it feels like no one believed FEMA was incompetent when mountain folk were yelling about it. But as soon as people in Los Angeles got mad, everything bad about FEMA became magically believable. Mind-boggling. LA wildfire victims reportedly being denied assistance from FEMA. So we beat that to death. We'll move on from there. Who was correct? And I'm not going to verbalize everything on there because there's a couple things on there that are still banned by big tech overlords, especially here on YouTube, where they would get quite upset. But that's quite a track record, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a T-shirt that says I need new conspiracy theories because all mine have come true.
Right on. I have a shirt that says I'm a conspiracy theorist, and my pronouns are told you so. True story. All right. Pelosi releases limited edition replica of dentures worn during Trump impeachment.
Ew. Ew.
Bad mental image there. All right. This is too much. 15-second video. He's having a bad day. Boy, howdy is he ever.
Ooh.
we gotta play this one twice. The jack.
That's like the Wile E. Coyote cartoon where he falls and then gets up, and then the rock that's dangling above decides it's going to break loose.
That is just too freaking funny. Oh my God. Anyway, the floor jack rolling away just kills me, but he was definitely having a bad day. All right, next one up. Can you believe this video by Tulsi Gabbard was banned on TikTok? TikTok definitely needs new ownership so users can enjoy free speech. 2 minutes, 11 seconds. I won't play the whole thing, but enough to get the gist.
Have you heard about this latest video that TikTok banned because they found it to be too controversial, too filled with hate, and too offensive? Well, if you haven't seen it yet, here it is. Brace yourself.
If you think girls and women's equality matter, stand up. If girls and women's sports matter, and you want your daughters to have the same opportunity you had, stand up. If you know that it isn't fair or safe to allow males to compete in girls' sports because it's, well, obvious, stand up. Don't be cowed by people who call you a bigot. You're not a bigot. Don't let men tell us how to be good girls. Don't let others tell you you just need to be quiet. Sit down. Be nice. It's not nice to further a lie. It's not mean to believe in women's equality. We deserve our own sports, privacy, fairness, safety, we deserve a chance to compete and win.
That's all I'm going to play. I cannot believe that it is even remotely controversial that men stay out of women's sports. This is irregular warfare, asymmetric warfare being waged on us by our enemies, especially China, to, create a chasm between factions in our own society, basically divide and conquer. We've beat this topic to death too, S2, but if you want to chime in, by all means, go ahead.
I have a message for China, and I have a message for TikTok. We beat you in the culture war.
Well said, actually. Very well said. All right, moving on to the next one. It's over on Monday, Bill. This is what winning looks like. Bill Gates is complaining that President Trump would not continue the funding for the Gates Foundation's HIV and climate change medical programs. By the way, the Epstein manifest showed that Bill Gates flew to Epstein Island at least 37 times. It's probably more than that. He was at Mar-a-Lago last week begging Donald Trump not to release the Epstein list. And he's been all over senators this week in DC begging for them not to release the Epstein list. I'm sure this is why his wife left him. I mean, it's the most logical explanation. But anyway, 40-second video. Let's have a listen.
The op-ed you recently wrote, which talked about how elections here in America are about more than just America. And I think it raises the question of what you would like to know more when it comes to Kamala Harris's approach to the world, her philosophy, and if you don't know enough already, Donald Trump's.
Well, on the issues that my foundation works on, climate change, generosity, continuing the HIV medicines that have saved tens of millions of lives, there's a pretty strong contrast, between the candidates. One would continue those programs, and the other one doesn't even see climate changes
as being real. Any comments on Bill Gates as to?
I think the reason his wife left him because she found out he didn't have a penis.
All right. So y'all heard it here first on SDN. Bill Gates is a dick, but he doesn't have one. That's too
dick with ears. He's a dick with ears.
That's too freaking funny. All right, so that's actually the end of chapter 3, but I want to give everybody a little bit of a teaser here. So this is a screenshot. My team is working on a new social media platform for our friend Todd Callender. Todd owns Cloud Hub, and he wants to start another platform that has a slightly different set of features. And like I say, my team's working on it. I was the first user account on it, by the way. And this is a screenshot of it, and I'll keep you all posted on this. We will probably be launching this mid-February, and the main value add for this platform, Liberty Club is what it's being called, is no censorship. So unless it's pornography or illegal activity, everything goes. Those are the only two things that don't go. And there'll be no suppression. There'll be no flip-flopping like Zuckerberg, and there'll be no flip-flopping like Elon Musk, because let's be frank, Elon Musk, new boss, same as the old boss. Leave it at that. I'll go on a rant on that particular topic at some point in the future, but pretty excited to see this happening. Can't thank Todd enough for having confidence in my team to do this. So good news. All right, so we're into homework stage here now. So homework are things that you can do in light of what the main topic of the night was, which of course is the Trump inauguration. So but you could probably apply this almost every day, but avoid DC on Monday. If you don't have to be in DC on Monday, that's a good thing. Next one, avoid large gatherings for the time being until authorities indicate that the terrorist threat has subsided. I don't know that we'll ever see that day come again in our lifetimes, but anytime you go in public to a large event like a football game, concert, open air, there's a much higher probability of a terrorist attack now than at any other point in time prior to this. If you see something, say something. Double check your get home bag and make sure it's up to par. I personally dump my bags out every 60 to 90 days and then redo it, repack everything. Number one, so I can remember exactly where everything is. Number two, the only thing that stays the same is that nothing stays the same. So I'm constantly swapping things in and out. We get sent some pretty cool stuff for evaluation, and it's not uncommon for something new to make it into our get home bags because of that. And the last one that I have is double check your EDC and make sure it's working as expected. Let me just reach over here and grab something, S2, and check this out. So this is my wife's SIG P365. You can see that it has no magazine in it. And if you shine a flashlight up in the mag well, you can see that it's not loaded. She had taken it out of its special pocket in her pocketbook, and it was in the bottom of her purse just floating around. And I can't get this gun to rack with the takedown lever. I can't get the slide off of it. I've been messing with this thing for about a week. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to get this apart without damaging it. But imagine that your EDC is in a bag. Could be like a sling bag, a backpack, a pocketbook, whatever the case may be. And the shit hits the fan, and this is what you end up with, a completely jacked up pistol. So this is why we say, make sure you check your stuff on a regular basis. She's back to carrying a Glock 19. Actually, she went one step past that. Pardon me, the Glock 19 sitting behind me. She went straight to the SIG P320 Legion 10 millimeter. So talk about going from
good girl. If you're gonna go big, if you're gonna go big.
And well, exactly. We have some prototype ammo from our friend James Pilgrim Ammo, and it's bad to the bone, man. It's a 90 grain projectile. It's over 2,500 feet per second. Yeah, nobody's walking away from that type of shot. So anyway, all right. So that was my last one. Double check your EDC, make sure it's working as expected. S2, any suggestions for our audience in regards to the first topic we discussed tonight?
Yeah. If you're out somewhere with your family, have a plan. If you get separated, have a plan of where you're going to meet up again. That's going to be extremely important because in the middle of the chaos, people get separated.
Great
point. Have a plan on being able to reunite with your family members so that you can extract yourself from that environment. Now, on the upcoming events that are happening, you all can go to a website called peoplesmarch.com. This is a website that these bunch of liberal, leftist, communist groups that are being subverted or covertly by the Democratic Socialist Party. They're running this website. You can go up there and you can find a location, find the cities that are near you. They're supposed to be doing this from January 18th, possibly past the inauguration day. Go find a city. If it's near you, stay away from those locations.
Wow, look at the map.
Yeah, it's happening in 83 cities across the United States currently that we know of. And I guarantee you, Antifa and BLM are going to be in the middle of that. And I would also probably say that you're probably going to likely have a bunch of the Muslim Brotherhood in there that are going to be agitating people in different areas as well.
Man, that's phenomenal information. Us to really appreciate that. I'm looking to see what's happening here. Like Palm Coast isn't too far from us, January 18th. So tomorrow, got something going on there. And then I'm assuming this is Daytona. No, Ormond Beach. Wow, some stuff close to home. Great advice, us to appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Now I don't know. I'm hoping that this whole thing is going to turn out to be a big nothing burger. Okay. Because everything we've been hearing for the last couple of years through the underground whisperings and everything has been that a lot of these groups have been really debilitated, and they haven't been able to gain a lot of the following that they had back in 2020 where they were looting, raping, killing, burning shit down. So I'm hoping that we'll see how much that's actually true at this point.
Well, it's better to be aware and for it not to happen than the other way around. So I appreciate you sharing that for sure.
Well, it's also going to be the litmus test going forward into 2025 as to how much trouble they can actually cause.
Good point. Good point. I've got a quick message from our friends at flexindustries.com. 7 seconds. So if y'all happen to be in Vegas next week, we will be there for SHOT Show. I will have that trigger, which is our friend Tactical Carl. I'll have the Flex 3MR, the AK Flex, which was just released 2 days ago, which is a high performance trigger for AKs, and the G Flex, which is a legal trigger for Glocks, unlike a Glock switch. And I'll be giving a handful of those away to people that we cross paths with next week in Vegas. Beyond that, if y'all have a chance to go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up for free membership. You'll get at least 50% of our daily sit reps and briefs for our videos for free. It could be anywhere from 20 to 70 pages of curated news. The other 50% is for paying members. It's $9.99 a month. And the paying members also get an invite to our Signal chat group, which is off the chain, gives you direct access to S2, Mike Sterling, Jeff MD, all those guys who just share an absolute ton of intel. And then we've got some great people in there that are on the same level as the rest of us. Velcro, for example, that you see in the chat here. That guy brings a lot to the table as far as intelligence and knowledge is concerned. And he's in there dropping truth bombs and all kinds of badass information. You also get our 228-page essentials guide, 50% off our insider e-magazines. It's a pretty darn good deal. So with that being said, S2, bring it home with the Grok prepper question of the night.
Okay, before I do that, there's a lot of people in the chat that are asking this question. So pay attention, people. The link that I gave you is called People's March. That's PEOPLESMARCH.com. That's peoplesmarch.com. Got it? And
Thank
by the
you.
way, Velcro, by the way, is our aircraft specialist.
Yeah, boy, howdy.
Anyway, moving on. The question is, what are the most common misconceptions about prepping that you've encountered, and how do you address them?
So I would say the biggest misconception, actually, let me back up for a second. So in 2017, the prepper market, domestic market, was valued somewhere around $75 billion. And I want to say at that time, it was less than 5% of Americans were considered preppers. For 2024, the final number's not in yet, but it looks like it's going to be around $450 billion and 15% of the country. So prepping and survival, there's some overlap, but they're not the same thing. And I think the biggest misconception from preppers is the damage that's been done by major networks portraying preppers as, doomsday kooky people building bunkers in the ground. And in reality, we've had enough natural disasters that here in Florida, for example, it only makes sense to stack up on things like water, food, make sure you've got backup power sources, et cetera, et cetera. You should be preparing for whatever the most likely thing is in your geography. And I think that's the biggest misconception, is that preppers are kooky people. And that's just not the case. Anybody who's being prudent and putting stuff away is a prepper. Here's the other thing too, S2, that I would add. When we put prepper content out there, we are very, very close to even split between men and women. It's like 55% 40 men, 45% women when we look at the demographics. Whereas if we're talking survival, especially if we're talking anything gun related, it's like 95% male, 5% female. So there's a lot of females involved in prepping these days, and they're not kooks and they're not doomsday people. And this is my last comment on this. Depending on whose numbers you want to believe. So excellent. Just quick background. Core inflation rate does not include food, fuel, and housing, the three things that eat up people's paychecks. It was put out that way years ago, and every administration since then has said, oh, core inflation, but it doesn't include the most important things. So the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is supposed to include all of those things, but it's a manipulated number as well. So coffee beans, wholesale level, they spiked by 29% in 1 month last summer. What did the Biden admin do? Oh, we better take coffee out of the CPI because it's skewing the numbers. So it's hard to believe the numbers that are put out there on topics like inflation, but suffice it to say, the lowest number as far as food inflation is concerned since Biden was illegally, illegitimately installed, 21% year over year, so compounded. And the highest number that I've seen is 41% compounded year over year. So when we're talking food inflation at Survival Dispatch, we right in the middle, 31%. So if you buy food and you stack it up, we just got a big order in from Nutrient Survival. I know Mike Sterling just ordered some stuff from them as well. And you stack that stuff up, by the time you get around to eating it, and we're talking food with a long shelf life, you've made a 31% year over year compounded ROI on it, return on investment. I don't know of anything else that you can get that kind of return on investment from. I do anticipate that inflation won't be near as bad under Trump. I mean, when you do things like shut down major pipelines like Keystone XL, that reduces supply. And when you reduce supply, simple economics, prices go up. And Obama had a hard on for Keystone XL. Trump gave them permission to proceed. Obama gets into his third term, nukes that right away. It's not the only reason, but it's a big reason that we've seen gasoline prices spike under this administration. So I'll get off of this topic. S2, you can wrap it up and bring us home.
I'm with Kanzi on this. One of the biggest misconceptions that I've run into is that preparing is a sign of mental illness and paranoia. And how I deal with that is I get out and I talk to people and I ask them kind of leading questions when it comes to prepping, and say, hey, have you ever thought about doing a garden? And people look at me like, well, why would I ever want to do that? And I say, well, just in case the grocery store runs out of food down the street for a day and, you need something from there, you don't have it. And when you start having normal conversations with people about stuff like that, they kind of start to get the idea of where you're going, and eventually they arrive at the same conclusion that you get to. So that's one of the misconceptions that I've seen. The other misconception that I've dealt with a lot is that, well, you can't be, preppers are prepared for everything. No, we're not. You cannot possibly, with all of the stuff that we're seeing right now going on in the world, there are scenarios that I can think of that I don't think anybody's prepared for. For starters, if you're keeping all of your prep stuff in your house and a wildfire comes around or an urban fire comes around that takes out your entire neighborhood, or a directed energy weapon demolishes your house to ashes, all your shit's gone. So we're not prepared for everything. We try to be. But anyway, that's about all I have for that question.
No, a great answer, S2. Really appreciate that. So we've got another kick-ass video to wrap up tonight's episode. It's 2 minutes, 51 seconds long. We will be back at the usual time tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.